Hello, I've wanted to make this video for a really long time, but I didn't know how. So now I'm just gonna do some unscripted talking about my progress with 3x3 blindfolded, and why I started, how I got to where I am, and where I want to go in the future. Okay, so about February of this year, I decided that I wanted to quit Megaminx and make 3Blind my main event. I've done Megaminx for 2 years seriously at that point, and I was getting pretty bored of it, and I got kind of good already. So I wanted to try something new, and 3Blind looked really interesting. So I started doing 3Blind. At that point, I could already do successful solves in around 2 minutes or so. So I just practiced a bit with M2 OP to de-rust, but I knew that I wanted to get really good, so I knew that 3 style was the goal. So after I got decent with M2 OP, I wanted to learn M2 3 style, and because M2 edges are already pretty fast, and OP corners are just slow. So if I could replace OP with 3 style corners, then I thought that would make my solves quite a bit faster. So I started doing 3 style corners. But first, before that, I learned Orozco corners as kind of a transition method. So what that did was it switched my buffer from UBL to UFR, and that's considered the optimal corner buffer. So basically this meant I could do UFR buffer 3 style, and whenever I got a comm that I didn't know, I could just use Orozco. So using some mix of Orozco and 3 style, I gradually started implementing more and more 3 style comms while learning them. I also programmed and used a 3 style trainer using Java. I'll link that in the description if I remember. But that helped me learn corners because I could generate letter pairs and then do the comms for that letter pair. So I learned it set by set, just letter by letter, and it was hard because I learned off a sheet, and the sheet comms are less intuitive generally. They might have a bit longer setups, but they're a lot faster. So I think corners ended up taking me 2 to 3 months to learn, doing it set by set, training every set, drilling all the comms, and making sure that I had actually decent algorithms for each case. But I think it was worth it because now my comms are kind of good. I mean, they're not perfect, they're not even close to perfect, but they're good enough to I don't need to replace every single one of my comms. Okay, and then after I was almost done learning 3 style corners, with I think I was 85% done with it, I had a competition. So I competed using M2 3 style with a little bit of Orozco. The competition was DFW Creeping Spring 2022, and it had blindfolded. I competed in blindfolded, and I got a 47 in the first round. So that was really good for me at the time, and I wasn't really expecting that. I was just hoping for a sub 55 maybe sub 1. And then I got a 54 in finals as well, which placed 3rd. So that was really encouraging. After that competition, I just finished up 3 style corners and then practiced that for a few weeks. Okay, and then next up is edge 3 style, because at that point I was pretty comfortable with M2 3 style, so I wanted to keep going and finish up the rest of 3 style. Most people consider edges easier than corners, which is why they learn it first. But I wanted to do corners first just so it could replace OP, because OP is really slow, and M2 isn't that bad. 3 style edges took me a week to learn, because I already had all of the experience from corners. I knew how to cancel moves inside of comms, I understood how comms worked, and generally I was really comfortable with them at that point, so learning 3 style edges only took a week. Okay, so I didn't use Orozco for edges at all. I went straight from M2 to 3 style since it was a lot easier for me, and then at that point I just grinded solves, because once you finish learning 3 style, the only thing to do at that point is practice until you're comfortable with it. So I did weeks and weeks and weeks of just 3 style grinding. I was breaking my PBs pretty frequently. My entire progression is on my second YouTube channel. If you just scroll through the uploads, you can kind of see how my times gradually decreased. And, now looking back, it's kind of cool to see my improvement. There's still a lot of things that I want to do with 3Blind, such as learning 2 twists, 3 twists, floating edge flips, edge breaking, all sorts of stuff, and maybe in the future I might even look into floating, but I'm not really sure if that's something that I want to get into. Currently my 3-blind PB is 20.12, and that was really lucky. It was an 8-alg scramble with easy comms. I don't think I'm going to beat that for a while, maybe a few months, but yeah, I'll keep doing blind and try to get better at it. Also, at my last competition, DFW cubing summer 2022, I got a 26 3-blind single and a 34 3-blind mean. Those are both on my channel. If you click on my channel, then yeah, you'll find it. But yeah, those were really good results for me, at least the single was. So that was also really motivating, having 3-style finally pay off to get actually good results. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention is memorization, because 3-style, I've talked a lot about that, it's just execution, but I also want to talk about how my memorization has gotten better. The biggest thing for me was learning how to one-pass edges. So that basically means you don't review, you just go through the 12 edge targets, and then you immediately execute them without reviewing. So this was a lot easier after I learned 3-style, because if I can execute edges faster, that means I can memorize things more quickly and retain them for less time. So I did 1,000 edge only solves, which actually helped quite a bit, because it made me more comfortable with edges, and that meant that I could do them more automatically without thinking about them. So yeah, and it also helped me I could practice one passing, and then after I could start one passing edges, that made corner memo easier because I didn't have to retain it as long, and the more automatic edges get, the more I can think about corners while doing edges. So that's the thing that I think a lot of blinders do, they review corners while doing edges. I'm trying to start doing that as well, because there's a pause between edges and corners usually, and I have to think about my corner memo. If I can do that while executing edges, I'll save a lot of time. Yeah, I think that's basically it for now. I spent the last 6 months working on 3-blind, and I think it's really cool to see that I've actually improved, and I'm a lot better now than I was 6 months ago. Plans for the future, I need to finish up learning some basic stuff, like corner twists and edge flips, doing that more efficiently. And then lastly, of course, is floating. I eventually do want to start maybe using 1 or 2 floating sets, because it'd be kind of cool. Full floating is probably too much work for a very small alg save, and I don't think I'm at that point yet, and I don't think I'll ever get to that point. So yeah, this has been kind of a big ramble, but I just wanted to talk about my 3-blind progress. So yeah, thanks for watching, and goodbye.